so many of the aspects of Episcopal that make this such a special place and a wonderful community. We have a number of folks representing different parts of the school who have a chance to share some information with you tonight. But I also hope this will be an early part of your overall process as you're working on learning more about the school. And there's so many of us here who are ready to help you in any way we can as we go through this admissions process this year. But with that, I'm going to turn things over to our Director of Admissions, Scott Conklin, who will give you a little more information about how the evening will go tonight. Okay, well, while we are waiting for Mr. Conklin, I did want to say it was nice we had a chance as you all were joining the program this evening to share a little bit of the music that has been performed by our wonderful choir here, and so many different parts of our program, from the academic program to athletics to the arts, is such an integral part of what we do. And I believe the early stages of our program this evening is going to be to turn things over to a group of students who've been wonderful to join us tonight as part of a student panel to talk about the school. And I see Mr. Conklin is here. Mr. Conklin, do you want to share a few words before we kick things over to the student panel?
Yes, absolutely. I apologize for that. I had some tech issues, so I had to jump on another computer. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening or this morning or afternoon, wherever you are. This really, to me, feels like the kickoff of the admissions season. So it's really exciting to meet some new faces and find the next great class of Episcopal students. So we're excited to share some important information with you tonight. You'll have a chance to hear from some of our students in just a minute, and then our faculty. And then at the very end, we'll talk about the admissions and application process a little bit. So as we're going through the panels, I just encourage you to keep your microphones on mute and to type any questions that you have into the everyone setting, or to the person who's moderating the panel. So that would be Ashley Taylor for the student panel and Lucy Goldstein for the faculty panel. So we encourage you to ask questions. And thanks again for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to our Dean of Students, Ashley Taylor, who will begin our student panel. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Conklin. Thank you, Mr. Stillwell. My name is Mrs. Taylor, Ashley Taylor. I'm the Dean of Students here at Episcopal. We're so glad that you've joined us tonight. And I have the honor of moderating the student panel, the stars of the show. So we have 8 students here tonight. And I'm actually going to ask them just to introduce themselves. And then the main part of our program with the students is to let you guys ask lots and lots of questions. So like Mr. Conklin said, use that chat feature. And that way I'll be able to see the questions that are coming in and sort of help facilitate as we go. So Episcopal students, I'm going to have you guys share your name, your grade, where you're from, and then why don't you share the grade that you came to Episcopal, and also share some of the things that you're involved in here at school. Okay, I know that's a lot, so I'll prompt you if you forget anything. All right, Clay, my man, why don't you kick it off?
Hello, everyone. I'm Clay Taylor. I am from Haymarket, Virginia. I am a senior this year. I entered as a freshman, and a couple of things I'm involved in this year is I'm the co-president of the Military Appreciation Club. I am honored to be serving as this year's head monitor, and I also wrestle and run cross country.
I can go. My name is Lucy Dixon. I'm from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I came to Episcopal my sophomore year, and a few activities I'm involved in is I'm on the honor committee, I'm a monitor, and I play varsity field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse.
Hi, I can go next. I'm Maya Tabron. I'm from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. I'm a junior. I came to Episcopal as a freshman, and some of the things I'm involved in are I'm a prefect. I'm part of the ambassadors, which is the tour guide ambassadors. Part of the Embody Love group, the BSA, basketball, and softball.
I can go. Hey guys, I'm Lawson Laverty. I'm a senior from Round Hill, Virginia. I came in as a new sophomore. Some of the things I'm involved in are choir, men's a cappella, varsity football, and lacrosse. And I'm a senior monitor this year, and I was a prefect last year.
I'll go next. Hi guys. I'm Hadley Folk. I'm from Wilson, North Carolina. I'm a senior this year. I came to Episcopal as a sophomore. At Episcopal, I'm the vice president of Table Talk. I'm on the executive board for UNICEF, and I'm an EHS ambassador, and I've played lacrosse.
All right, I'll go next. Hi guys, I'm Harrison Wise. I'm a senior from Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. I came to Episcopal as a sophomore, and I currently serve as a member of the honor committee, a monitor, EHS ambassador, and president of the Grill and Chill Club.
Hey guys, my name's Chris. I'm a senior from Queens, New York. I came as a freshman, and some of the things I'm involved in are the student vestry. I'm heavily into the performing arts, all aspects of it, including orchestra and theater. And I also am the editor, one of the editors-in-chief for the Damien, our school literary magazine.
All right, awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, we are ready to take some questions. So anything that's on your mind, go ahead and just put it in the chat and we'll start getting these students talking.
I also don't think Mia introduced herself. So while the questions are rolling in, do you want to introduce yourself?
Lucy, that's why you're here. Keep me in mind. Mia.
Hi,
I'm
everyone.
so sorry.
It's okay. My name is Nia. I'm a senior this year, and I came as a junior last year. This year, I'm part of the service. I am starting a chess club, and I'm also part of other student organizations such as Black Student Alliance, and I also do track and cross country.
Perfect. Thank you, Nia. All right, we've got our first question. Our first question is about dorm life. I'm wondering if you guys can talk a little bit about, there are lots of different school options out there, day schools, boarding schools. Maybe describe a little bit of what you guys have enjoyed about dorm life at Episcopal.
I can jump in. I think everyone, especially since Episcopal is 100% boarding, the dorm life has really made Episcopal like a great experience, and I think makes it the place it is. Learning to live with people is definitely something you have to get used to, but I think it's a really good skill and it helps you grow. And kind of living together and experiencing all these things together, I think really creates these lifelong friendships and makes our school so connected. So some of my best memories have been hanging out with my friends on dorm, watching football games, hanging out, playing board games, just hanging out in each other's rooms. So I think that's a really important part of Episcopal that I definitely love about it.
Great. Does one other person want to chime in with their dorm life experience?
To add on to everything Lawson said, I also think it's a great way to help academically, because we have like a tutoring system of upperclassmen who help underclassmen with their homework throughout the school year. So you can be on dorm and you can go to your friend's room and get help, or you can go to upperclassmen's room to get help as well. And that really fosters like that older brother or older sister relationship.
All right, perfect. I'm getting some questions about the experience coming in as a new sophomore or new junior. Lucy and Nia, you guys maybe want to take this one?
Yeah, I can speak on coming in as a new sophomore. I was always nervous because, everyone came freshman year, you don't know what kind of bonds you're going to make, but so many people come to Episcopal as a new sophomore. So when I first got there were like 10 other girls that were and guys that were a new sophomore with me, so I went through that experience with them. And so it's really not as uncommon as you think. I highly recommend that as well. So I loved being a new sophomore. So.
A new junior is definitely different because, there are a lot of people who have been together since ninth grade and have been used to Episcopal because you're going in there and you're just kind of getting used to everything. But I think that you really just need to kind of understand that you're only going to be there for 2 years. So you kind of have to think, okay, what are the requirements I have to fulfill? What are the sports I want to do? And in terms of meeting friends, for me, that just kind of happened naturally. That might be different for others, but usually when you join different clubs or do different activities, you kind of find people with common interests. And for me, it was pretty easy to find a group of people that I felt comfortable with. But I think it's just kind of figuring out what you want to fulfill during your time at Episcopal and making sure that that gets done within those 2 years that you have.
And also kind of going back to the previous question, like Episcopal being 100% boarding makes that transition 10 times easier. Like making friends, like you live with them, you go to class with them, all you do is you're around people in your grade. So that also makes it a lot easier.
Perfect. Hadley or anyone else want to chime in on this one? I'm not sure which other students. I'm blanking on the years.
Yeah, I saw the other question. I just asked Miss Williams how many people are typically on a dorm because that was the second part of someone's question, and it's 40 to 60. So whoever was wondering that, there's your answer. I completely agree with Lucy. I think because it's 100% boarding, it's inevitable that you're going to make friends and acclimate. And you also have amazing faculty on dorm who are facilitating activities for you and upperclassmen. And there's never a moment where you're bored or kind of like by yourself. There's always something to do or someone to hang out with. So I would say if you're looking to come in sophomore or junior year, definitely do it. It's not something to be like worried about or scared about. So.
All right. Thank you so much for that, guys. I'm getting some different streams of questions having to do with the afternoon option program. And we've got some great representation here. Some of the different approaches that kids can take to afternoon options. So sort of questions about what's your favorite afternoon option? How often do you meet? What are some of the expectations at Episcopal around afternoons? Anyone want to speak to their experience with the afternoon option program?
I guess I can kick things off. Normally when we're at school, we do have afternoon options every weekday for around 2 hours after classes finish. And that ranges from doing stuff like art or theater to playing a sport that's correlated with that season. Personally, I've been on both sides, so I have played sports and I've also gone into the arts side of things. And personally, I like theater a lot, so I decided to continue that. But I think one of my peers can probably answer to the sports section of afternoon options a bit more than I can.
I'll talk about the athletics side about it. I've done a lot of sports over my time at Episcopal. I've rowed crew, ran track, played lacrosse, you name it. But there's so many options you can choose from that you can't really go wrong. And you can try out new sports any year. It doesn't really matter. And there's also a great gym that you can go to and work out. So whatever you're interested in, there's always something that you can do.
Anyone want to speak to maybe trying something new? Did you come to Episcopal and sort of, you knew you had an afternoon option that you were excited about in the winter, but maybe the fall or the spring or, vice versa, you didn't have anything that jumped to you and you tried something new?
Oh, I can speak to that one, Miss Taylor. I came into freshman year dead set that I was going to play football and lacrosse at Episcopal and had no idea what I was going to do in the winter. Fast forward 2 years later, I'm neither playing football nor lacrosse, and I actually ended up trying the wrestling team freshman year because one of the monitors on my dorm told me, hey, you look like someone who would like to wrestle, jump in and try it. And ever since then, I've fallen in love with wrestling, and it's become one of my favorite sports. So to go off of like what Miss Taylor said, don't be afraid to try new things because everything doesn't always go according to plan, but that's okay.
Awesome, Clay. What about the opposite? Do any of you have a story about maybe a passion you came into Episcopal already knowing you were kind of all about that you've gotten to pursue here?
I can speak on that. For me, so I mentioned this previously before. I play field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse, and that's something that I played my freshman year at home too. So I knew that I was going to try out for those teams when I came to Episcopal. But like the difference in level and commitment is dramatic. It was so much more fun at Episcopal because you live, eat, spend so much time with your teammates. And I don't know, it's just been an all around like great experience. And so.
I can add to that too. Lacrosse was a big reason that I decided to attend Episcopal, and I've been so impressed with the level of play and the commitment and the coaching. Shout out Coach Conklin. But like every sport that we offer is very competitive, and you can always find teammates to get work in. And we play some of the most competitive schools in the country in so many different sports. So, and the facilities are amazing. I could go on and on about how Episcopal helps your athletic career, but I think that's definitely an awesome part of Episcopal that has helped me a lot.
Perfect. All right. What about the weekends? So what do weekends look like at Episcopal?
So I can speak to this because I'm part of the activities committee, but there's always different things planned. So for instance, we'll have this thing called the ice ball, which is a dance for 11th and 10th grade. 11th and 12th graders. It's kind of like a prom in a way. I haven't really been to that because I'm a junior. But there's also winter carnival where you can dress up. There's a faculty versus senior basketball game. I definitely recommend going to that. There's also different activities that you can do that are off campus. So one that I liked, there was a Hershey Park trip that I really enjoyed. And then there was one to New York that I really enjoyed because I have never really been to New York before. And I got to do all these new different things that I've never tried. And also you can just, if you're not doing anything with anyone like from the school, you can also just go into DC since we're so close. Tons of things to do in DC and Alexandria and Old Town. So, yeah.
Maya, that's perfect because that actually segues into a question about, can you elaborate when you say there's so much to do in DC? Like, what are some of the things that Episcopal students do?
So a lot of Episcopal students go to DC to eat like lunch or dinner. And there's also Georgetown, so you can go shopping. There's also malls there, you can go shopping. But I know a lot of people go there to eat, to celebrate their birthdays, or just to have fun with their friends.
Perfect. And I'm going to actually keep going with that theme. What about in terms of the Washington program and how DC ties into our curriculum? Can any of you name, I think most people have probably read a little bit or heard a little bit about how close we are to DC and how we integrate it in the curriculum, but could you guys maybe give a specific example of a DC excursion tied to a class that was really meaningful to you?
I can also answer this one too. But so this, I think it was last year, we read a book as the whole school called Fences. And we got to go see that play because we were so close to DC. And that kind of made a big impact on me because I got to actually see the words come to life instead of like in a movie. But I actually got to see the words come to life. And that really helped me understand the play and helped me pass the class. So
I can add to that too. I've taken both Latin and Greek at Episcopal, and something that's really impressed me is like studying something all week in class and learning about it and talking about it, then actually being able to go into DC at one of the many museums and literally look at it and then use what we saw at the museum back in class to kind of relate back to our learning. I just think it's something really cool. And you can apply what I just said to basically every discipline that we offer. A lot of teachers tie in the Washington program to what we're learning in class. So I think it's just a cool way to have like hands-on real world experience what you're learning in the classroom.
Is there one more example of sort of an academic experience in Washington that was meaningful?
I can add to that. I think also Washington programs are just a space to have fun with what you're learning in class. So one of my favorites was this past year for French. My entire French class went to this 5-star French restaurant at the base of Capitol Hill. And it was really cool because we had been talking about French culture and cuisine in class. And then we were able to like eat it and kind of have these certain like table manners emulating the French. And we were like seated next to this like Senate committee, which was really funny. But WPEs are a really cool way to apply what you've been learning and just have fun with it and remember that learning is fun. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Hadley. And WPE is the term we use for a Washington Program Experience here. So when we go in as part of one of our classes. What about why Episcopal? So lots of schools out there. Every school has a different feel to it. What was it about Episcopal that made you know that this was the right place for you?
Personally, I loved the fact it was 100% boarding. That was just thinking that everyone that I went to class with, I went to bed with too, it's just like super fun. And I knew that I'd create bonds that I wouldn't have at any other school. And also a lot of my siblings, 3 of my siblings went to Episcopal as well. So that helped with the decision.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Lucy. 3 of my older siblings went to Episcopal, and my dad went there, and I saw the connections and education they got. And I was compared to like what I was, learning at home in Florida. I saw that, wow, I could be in DC, going out every week, learning so much and meeting so many people from around the world, and I could get a great education. So that was probably what drove me to really want to come to Episcopal.
Yeah, I can jump in. I think we can all talk about this forever because there's so many things we love about Episcopal. But for me, what I really love about it is just the balance. There's a couple boarding schools that you go and maybe it's all about academics all the time. You're always in your room studying, or maybe there's some boarding schools where it's all about everyone playing sports or all this different stuff. But I feel like Episcopal just really does a good job of balancing everything. You can get an amazing education, play amazing sports, and then be in this community where you make friends with your faculty members and your peers. That's something for me that I never had before. I went to public school before this, and I've just been amazed with all the opportunities in every aspect of life that Episcopal offers.
I also really like the community. Back at my old school, which wasn't boarding, it was just kind of, okay, these are some people, then like it's school and then it's done. And maybe you still like contact a few of them after school. But at Episcopal, you have your advisor, you have your teachers, you have the faculty, you have your friends, you have your classmates. And so they're just all these people that you can make connections with. And your teachers, like you could even message them like late after school and they can probably still reply to you if you need help. You can ask someone on dorm for help if you need it. And I think it's just the fact that you're there with your classmates and your friends on the weekends. You're there with them after school. So it's just this really good experience with everybody because they're just there around you and they're there to support you and have good times.
Let's keep going with this one. What else? Why did other people choose Episcopal?
For me, what immediately caught my eye was the Baker Science Building when I came on campus. And I had never heard about boarding schools before visiting Episcopal or even like Episcopal in and of itself. And I'm a big STEM guy, science, technology, engineering, and math. And as soon as I walked into Baker, I like fell in love with Episcopal. I told my mom, I was like, this is where I want to go. They had fossil when you walked in. They had the 3D printer room. And I was just like, Mom, like, this is the place for me. So what really made me say yes to Episcopal 100% was the science department.
For me, it was just all the different options that I had to choose from. From my previous school, for me, it was about language kind of, and my previous school, we only had Spanish. And I learned that at Episcopal, there were all these different languages like Spanish, French, Mandarin, German, Latin, all these different languages that I've never really thought to learn. So I thought that was cool how there were different options and how there were different Englishes that you can take in your 11th and 12th grade year. That was really interesting to me too.
Adding on to Maya, not only having those options, but being able to pursue them in depth So personally, I'm like a huge music nerd, and the fact that we had like a state-of-the-art recording studio was incredible and like mind-blowing, just because like all the different capabilities you could take in audio engineering class and learn how to actually mix and master music. And you can also utilize the Washington programs to learn more, or you can even just volunteer at a hospital in Washington. Just the opportunities that Episcopal gave, being a boarding school in such an urban area, that was a really big win for me.
Chris and Maya, that's actually a perfect segue into our next series of questions about course load and how much flexibility do you have in your classes? What do you get to choose? What is sort of assigned to you? Do you guys want to talk a little bit about like Maya, you mentioned all the foreign languages and some of the electives in the English department. Chris, you're doing a great job starting to talk about some of the music offerings. Someone want to give a little more sort of broad brushstrokes overview of how courses work?
I could talk a little bit about that. So I know that for freshmen and sophomores, there are some classes that are kind of required that kind of the whole freshman grade or sophomore grade will take. But in terms of being a junior and a senior, a lot is up to you. So like this past year, like I don't even know if I really discussed with my parents, because I was like, okay, what requirements do I need to fulfill? What classes do I want to take? And so you can also choose, you can have either 5 to 7 classes, I think. You can kind of decide which one of those like you want to be advanced. And also, since you can take 7 classes, say for Clay, because he likes STEM, he can take 2 STEM courses or an extra math course. And if you really like the arts, you could take choir and like painting. So you can really tailor your courses to you, and that also affects your course load. So if you're taking more advanced courses, you're probably going to have more homework, and it's just going to be like a heavier course load. So you can really tailor it to yourself, and your advisor is there to help you. The deans are there to help you, the registrars. So if you have any questions about that, you can just ask them in terms of what courses you think would be best for you. Oh, and I guess I'll also add, somebody asked if the arts are an elective or part of the main curriculum. So there are arts electives such as like photography, painting, dancing, like things like audio engineering, also stuff like that. Acting, I took acting last year. So those can be done as courses, or you can also take them as like an afternoon option. So there's afternoon art, like photography. There's like Chris said, there's theater. So there's the play, the musical. So if you want that to be a main part of your everyday life, you can take it as a course, or you can also take it as an afternoon option.
Awesome. Thank you, Nia. What about relationships with faculty? That's obviously, you guys have talked a lot about your peers and sort of teammates and living with the same students that you go to school with and play sports with or practice music with. What about how are your relationships with faculty, and what does that look like at a boarding school?
Okay, so I've kind of been waiting for this question because, I was really excited to talk about it. But so you form incredibly good relationships with the faculty, and especially your teachers and your coaches, because they live on campus with you. So say I'm taking biology now, say I needed help with homework or something, I could just email my teacher or just go see my teacher, because she either lives on dorm or lives on campus, and she'll be like, yeah, I'm open to go see you. So I definitely think it's always open. I don't know how to explain that very well, but it's always open. Like you can always just go to your teacher, and in turn, when you do go to your teachers, you form these great relationships. For me, I have a really great relationship with my English teachers because I needed a lot of English help, and they were always there to help out with you, and they were so supportive and all that stuff. So
I can add a little bit about that as well. Last year, I took Advanced U.S. History, which is a pretty challenging course, and it was awesome because my teacher also lived on the same dorm. So even when I didn't need academic help, we could just hang out because faculty are always on duty on your dorm, and you get to know your teachers and other faculty members outside of class, which is really special because at home I'd only know my teachers like at school, but you get to see who they are outside of classes as well. You can see their dogs. So I think that part is like helps you bond not only inside the classroom but outside. And I think that part like really makes it special.
Thanks, guys. Those are great examples of classroom teachers and kind of what that looks like in dorm life. Would anyone want to speak to a faculty relationship outside of the classroom? So maybe an advisor relationship or a dorm head, coach, some of those other relationships that you guys are forming here?
I guess I can speak a little bit to that. So as a new junior, just got placed into an advisory, maybe that didn't have as many people as the other ones. And I really liked my advisor and my advisory, so I'm with them again this year. But even outside of the class, I knew that I could always like message her if I needed help with anything related to like academics or just afternoon options, anything, because as a new junior, I had a lot of questions. If I wanted to, I could go over to her apartment and we could like try to make pancakes. We've had a lot of baking experiences that we've tried out. So they're really just there kind of to be like a parent figure, I guess I would say. And I really like my advisor, and I feel like she's helped me a lot with different situations and just with making my experience at Episcopal better. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Nia. Would anyone like to speak to our chapel program? Our head chaplain is actually here tonight, but we're going to respect that she's here as a prospective parent. So we're going to have one of our students step in and speak a little bit to what the chapel program here at Episcopal looks like. Who wants to take that one?
I guess I can take that one. So we have chapel 3 times a week, or we had chapel 3 times a week. And that was mainly just a space to gather as a community and to reflect on our everyday lives and to sort of have a brief pause because our lives can get so hectic, especially in a 100% boarding school. But also we have amazing chaplains like Rev C and Reverend Jones who are always there to help you and support you. And through our student vestry, we also have students who are willing to talk to you and help encourage your faith life at Episcopal. And if like Episcopals and the Episcopalian denomination isn't exactly what floats your boat, we also offer worship shuttles. So if you find a church or a mosque in the area that you would like to attend, you just fill out a survey and we would arrange for you to get there.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Rev C is giving you the thumbs up, so that's good. Can we talk a little bit about study hall, right? So that's another big thing about boarding school. You're here in the evenings, not at home doing your work. And I got an earlier question, actually, some of you guys mentioned that you had been or are prefects. So maybe if one of our 9th grade dorm prefects could tell us what a prefect is, and then why don't we start by talking about what study hall looks like for our 9th graders, and we can kind of show how it changes as you get older. So which prefect wants to take that?
Well, I'm the only prefect, so I'll do that.
All you, Maya.
Thank you. So as a prefect, your job is to kind of help out the freshmen with all the things that they need, to be a shoulder for them to lean on if they need help with schoolwork or social life, anything like that. And so for 9th graders, study hall is kind of like your door has to be open, your phones are outside, so there's no distractions at all. And you can't go into other people's rooms, especially now because of Corona also. But it's actually, at first I thought I would be distracted very easily. It's very preventative of that. So you focus and get your work done within the 2 hours that you have from 8 to 10. And then later on, it'll change so that you can close your door. But I think definitely putting your phone out there and just keeping all distractions away really helps. Yeah.
I can add to that too. Like you said, when you progress and you get older, you move on to different grades, you definitely get a lot more freedom in terms of study hall. Like as juniors and seniors, you can sign out to the library. You can go see a teacher if you need to. You can work on group projects. And the library is like was probably one of my favorite parts about Episcopal, just like going there and like working with friends and taking some study breaks and hanging out. But I think study hall is just such a great way to just know that you have those 2 hours just blocked off for you, so you know that you're going to have that time to get your work done regardless. And otherwise, maybe at like other schools, or maybe if you're at like a public school, you might have conflicts, but you know that that night you're going to be able to do your work because you have that time blocked off for you. So I think that's really nice.
What are some of the resources you guys mentioned? How all of our classroom teachers, they might live on your dorm, they might live on campus, they may even be your advisor or your coach. What about some of the resources academically if you are struggling? So if you're having difficulty in a particular class, what are some of the supports that we have here to help students when that happens?
So Episcopal actually offers a lot of support in that area. So we have the writing center. If you just have a paper for class, you can make an appointment, go by there, they'll read it over for grammar and help you. We also have math and science tutor. Those people are usually on dorm, so if you have questions for math or science homework, you just go to them. And then we also have language tutoring, so same kind of thing. If you're struggling with language, you can go to them. And then we also have like a student services place, 3rd floor Hummel, where you can go and get a tutor and get help. Like I got a tutor off campus, for one of my classes, and we'd meet in the student center during my free period. So it's, yeah.
Perfect, Lucy. So those first 3 programs you described are actually our student tutor program, so peer tutors. And then that was great. Lucy referenced what we call our academic support center, which is staffed with full-time learning specialists. And that's where Lucy was referencing getting an off-campus adult tutor. What about, does anyone want to speak to tutorial office hours, kind of what that structure is in our day?
I can speak towards tutorial. Tutorial at Episcopal is very helpful. You have the blocked out time at the end of the day. Well, now it's changed. You have the block out time at the end of your class period to stay afterwards with your teacher if you want help or you need extra clarification. And then even beyond tutorials, from personal experience, freshman year in math and sophomore year, I would meet with my math teacher in the morning during breakfast before tests. They would come by on dorm and have math parties before math tests. So help is always available, even if it's not designated during that block.
Oh, and I kind of wanted to add to this. My sophomore year actually, my advisor was a math teacher. He still is, and sometimes I would get math help from him. So also, I would say use your advisors. Like if they're a teacher, use them as a resource so that you can get help. Also, if you can't meet with your teacher that day, I definitely recommend that.
Perfect. Okay, this is a fun question. So what is the most fun thing that you've done at Episcopal?
I can go. I might be a little biased, but probably my funnest thing, because I'm a football player, the best thing I've done is beating Woodbury 2 years in a row. It's just, I can't explain how awesome it is, even if you're not playing football. I mean, it's my favorite part probably about Episcopal is the Woodbury game. Like when we won and when we're going to win again, everyone runs on the field, hugging each other, and it's the best. So that's probably mine.
I've spoken on this before in other things, but in the spring, it's called May Day. So there's like a week of exams, and right, like the Saturday before you start your exams, you have like 3 hours, and we all go out to a field, and there's like a water slide, snow cones, ice cream, petting zoo, and it's just like all your friends together. And so you've been stressed because you've been studying for so long, and then you just have that one block where you don't have to worry about anything and just let it all go. And that's probably one of my favorite things. So, yeah.
My sophomore year, I actually had an incredible opportunity to join the Episcopal choir and actually go to London and sing at cathedrals. And so, yeah, I see Lawson cheering. That was a really cool experience just because of The bonding that we had on the trip, but also being able to sing in those spaces was incredible.
These are great. Any others you want to throw in a super fun moment?
This isn't really one specific moment, but something that I loved was my junior year in the winter. I did an externship with a political consulting firm, and that's like right up my alley. I think politics are so interesting, and it was like 2 months, and it was just so fun. So.
Actually, Hadley, do you mind speaking a little bit more about that? There have been some questions about when students can have internships and the types of internships, and I was going to sort of push that to the faculty panel, but since you're here speaking about it now, why don't you dive into a little more detail?
Yeah, so we, Episcopal, started piloting the junior externship, I believe 2 years ago, and so we've had the senior externship around for a while. And so juniors were expressing interest, so they picked up that program. So when I did it last year, we applied to have an externship, and I believe there were about 10 of us who ended up being able to do it. And so everyone had really varied interests, anywhere from wanting to work with animals to wanting to work in a hospital setting to what I did with politics. And so it's really a fantastic opportunity to explore something that you personally really find intriguing. It's also a great way to just like build connections. The Episcopal alumni network is really impressive, and I'm sure that the McCain Ravenel Center might talk about this later, but I got my externship through an Episcopal alum, and so that was really cool. And it's so the junior externship is only available in the winter for now. That might change in coming years, but so my externship was 2 months. And then the senior externship is, I believe, about a month or like 3 weeks. So.
Perfect, Hadley. Appreciate you diving into that. And just want to throw out there that I know there are some questions. I'm so appreciative of all the enthusiasm in the chat and all the great questions that are coming in. We did try to choose and sort of pick the ones that the students could speak to the experience most clearly on. And then there are lots in here that I think our faculty panel, which is up next, will be able to answer as well. So don't be afraid to ask that panel again as Lucy Goldstein takes over the moderation. But with that, Mr. Conklin, I think I will hand it back over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Taylor, and our students. We cannot wait to see you in just a few days. It's really exciting. So thank you for joining us tonight. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to our faculty panel and Lucy Goldstein.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to see you all here tonight. And I am also especially excited to see our students who we will see so very soon. My name is Lucy Goldstein. I am the Dean of Faculty here at Episcopal. This is my 7th year back at Episcopal. I'm also an alum from the class of 1997. So I started my career in education elsewhere and then have since journeyed my way back to this very special place. And it's a pleasure to be here in the role that I'm in. I also teach English. I coach squash. I'm an advisor, and I'm one of the deans on call. So I'm around on the weekends, make sure things are going well. And amongst other things, I am married to Jeremy Goldstein, who is here tonight as well, one of our panelists. And we have a 12-year-old daughter named Jane. We live together on campus, not attached to a dorm, but right near the heart of campus. And it's a pleasure to be with you all this evening. So I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to each of our panelists to give a 1 minute or so introduction of themselves. And then we'd love to jump in and answer the many great questions you all have. We have our panel tonight, so I'm so excited for that. And actually, I'm not quite sure who's up first, so I'll throw it to Doug Dixon.
Hi, Lucy. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I thought this was beginning at 8:15, and I'm glad to be here and glad to see so many wonderful faces out there. Ben, are we going to put a slideshow up, or shall I just launch ahead?
So I will be the wizard behind the screen for you, Doug. So we do have a slideshow. Which slide applies to you?
The student support at EHS.
All right, I got it. So sharing shortly.
Thank you. My name's Doug Dixon. I'm the assistant head for student life here. And that role involves really supporting the student support system here at EHS. And that student support system is extensive. It starts with the many caring adults who come on the campus, who dedicate their time to teaching and coaching the students here. There's over 100 adults who are doing that. So many of them are experienced teachers, and they're committed to being here 24/7 and supporting all the students on campus. We also have an impressive medical support system led by a full-time physician, Dr. Adriana Bravo. And I think at no time have we understood the importance of having a full-time pediatrician on campus than at this time in the history of our school. She's here 24/7. Our health center is open 24/7 with a medical director, with a full nursing staff, and we're here to help students not only in COVID times, but in times when they have other regular ailments that kids come up with, from chickenpox to colds to flus to sprained ankles, and all the things that kids come up with when they're living on campus or living at your own home. And run into problems like that. We also have a robust afternoon option program. And that afternoon option program includes many traditional school athletic teams, but it also includes arts, science, and outdoor activities offerings for students to get engaged with activities that happen in the afternoon that get them outside, that get them working with other students and with adults who live here, who teach them and work with them in the dorm. We also have a robust counseling staff with 3 professionals full-time. And I will also say the other 100 adults living here and working on campus act as counselors with a little c to help all the students here on campus. But we do have 3 professionals who are here to support students in their triumphs and in their trials as they move ahead. We also have a fully supported activities program in this 100% residential community. There is fun virtually every day on campus, but in particular, there's lots of fun on the weekend. There are lots of activities. We are here together on the weekend, and we have lots of fun things, from hypnotists to movies to DJs, to trips into DC, to you name it, we have that going here. And it's a very, very robust activities program, open and available to every student on this campus for no extra charge. It's part of going to school here. I know Ms. Williams is going to talk about dorm life. Also, we have 8 wonderful dorms that allow communities within our communities to flourish. And Ms. Williams will be talking about that in a little bit. We also have an excellent and nutritious, healthy food choice here. We have a great dining service that allows our kids to have wonderful meals, our adults to have wonderful meals on campus. But we also have snack bar. We have options for students to get food from off campus. There are abundant options for people to get food on this campus and to get great food. There's also opportunities for spiritual growth through our chapel programs, led by 2 wonderful chaplains here who take us through a chapel program that encourages us to grow spiritually, not necessarily to be an Episcopalian, but to really explore your spiritual growth and to be a spiritual person, or at least to explore that side of your life. And finally, we have a commitment to being a community and to be an equitable community for every member of our community. And we have a robust program around that and robust programming in and around an office dedicated to that. So that is my introduction to our student support system. And I'm going to turn it over to, I'm not sure, Tron, can you tell me who I should turn it over to?
I think we've got Mrs. Williams next. Is that right?
It's fine.
Perfect.
So we probably want to go to the slide on residential life.
Hi, I'm Amila Williams, and I live on campus with my husband, our oldest, who is a junior, and our two daughters who are in elementary school. So as Mr. Dixon just mentioned, we have 8 dorms, and 4 are for our girls and 4 are for our boys. We have 2 freshman dorms, one for the 9th grade girls and one for the 9th grade boys. We talked about, well, basically each dorm has 2 or 3 or 4 faculty apartments inside of it. And so that is so that there's always someone living in the building to respond to emergencies, to be aware, to hear, to be there. And then dorm teams consist of other adult members of the community who don't live in that building, but who are a part of that team. During the student talk, Maya talked to you about what a prefect is, and a prefect is a junior. There are also senior monitors who live on dorm who perform that same function, but they do that for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, and then also have additional roles of leadership throughout the campus. And then Mr. Dixon already talked to you about weekend activities, and when we come back to the Q&A, I'll be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Ebel, you're up next with academics.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Ebel, and I am the Dean of Academic Affairs. And I have been at Episcopal for the past 12 years and done a little bit of everything. I teach English, coach JV football, coached basketball, coached track, lived on a boys' dorm for my first 10 years here. And so I know the school pretty well, and am now serving in this role as Dean of Academic Affairs. And one thing that I would say, it's kind of hard to give a full overview of the academic program in just 1 minute, but I will kind of give you a broad overview. And actually, I thought the students did a really nice job of talking about the academic program. And one of the things that Lawson said about the program being balanced and the experience here being balanced is one of the things I would point out. Their students here get both a sort of core common experience in their freshman and sophomore years where they are taking classes together with their classmates and going through some of the core subjects and materials, the sort of core 5. And a lot of those classes in those first few years, they are taking together and learning some of the basics, getting some of the basic content down. And then as students learn and mature and grow in their junior and senior years, they have a lot more freedom and independence to sort of take the classes that they would be most interested in or pursue a passion, or, you know, as Clay was talking about, follow his inclination towards STEM and take a few extra classes there. And so we have over 140 different courses. And so there are a ton of opportunities, a ton of different classes you can take from, advanced 3D modeling and robotics, to legal principles and trial advocacy. And these electives that happen in the junior and senior year are really unique and really interesting. And that's sort of where I would also point out the balance is between the strong classroom experience that you get with the amazing teachers here, but then you also get a really practical side to your education in being able to go out into DC and to access the resources of DC to further learning and deepen learning by going out into the city. And so it's a really unique educational experience. And I would the final thing that I would say is that the other side of balance is sort of the academic ethos that exists here, where It is rigorous. The courses are challenging. Our students work hard, but it's not cutthroat, and it's not each student for themselves. They're really a collaborative effort on the part of all, and we're all trying to learn and grow together. And so I am passing it on. I think I'll pass it back to Lucy, and she can pass it on.
Thanks, Nate. Okay, so we're on to the McCain Ravedel Center with Mr. Goldstein.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeremy Goldstein. I'm the Executive Director of the McCain Ravenel Center at Episcopal High School. Just briefly, the McCain Ravenel Center is about 2 years old, and it is a place where we house all of our signature programs. So signature programs being the Washington program, which great questions have already come our way about those things, about those offerings. Global programs, leadership and ethics, our outdoor leadership program, our service and civic engagement programming, and of course the McCain Ravenel Center externships for juniors and seniors. The center was started in the spirit of the late Senator John McCain, who is an Episcopal alum, and his relationship with William B. Ravenel, a longtime and esteemed and a very well-regarded faculty member. Our center is designed to weave all sorts of great immersive and experiential learning opportunities into the curriculum. So we are an academic center, and then we're also a special programming center, which brings programming to life for our campus that no other school, I don't think, in the country can offer. And I sort of boast that because I'm about to show you what we did last Monday. Last Monday's programming was remote, but we also had the opportunity to connect with some great resources that not a lot of schools connect with. We focused on the election, and then we also spent a lot of time talking about civil discourse and politics in general. So I'm going to bring up a quick look at this, and I'll walk you all through it. But we're very proud of what we construct as a team for the McCain Ravenel Center. And these programs aren't just one-off programs. We're consistently putting these together for full days of experiential learning. So we are doing an all-school read of Just Mercy to talk about incarceration and the legal system. In addition to that, we're focusing on election 2020 like the rest of our country. And if you take a look in the morning, we had a keynote speaker, Marlon Peterson, who is who hosts a podcast. He's a formerly incarcerated individual, and he had a lot of great personal stories and personal narratives to talk about his experience with the legal and judicial system. And then later on, as we moved, we broke into advisory groups, which is our smallest unit with small groups of 7 to 8 students with one faculty member for deep conversation and debriefing. We're big on reflection at Episcopal High School. In fact, whenever we do something, we want to reflect about it. We'd like to talk about how it went, and really we want to use that as a growth opportunity for both faculty and students. In the afternoon, we had Mary Madeline, James Carville, who are two former Episcopal parents, moderated by an alum who's worked in politics. And we just wanted to put political operators in front of our students to talk about differing viewpoints and how you can talk about those in a civil manner. And then students were sent to smaller breakout rooms in the afternoon that included 10 rooms that were filled with specific issue areas and individuals that we perceived to be on many sides of the issue. So they could talk about it and model a really good conversation. So try to imagine being in a room with someone who is actually doing the work in politics and being able to ask them questions. Highlights include, we had former Governor McAuliffe. We had a couple of individuals who worked for the DNC and the RNC, the former communications director, a speechwriter for President Bush. And we really have a great network that connects our school to unique opportunities. We also have students who camp out for opening arguments at the Supreme Court. So Episcopal High School is not just located in a place that really creates a great educational environment. We go beyond the gates of our school to make sure that our students are connected. And through our program, in 4 years, students go at least 100 times into Washington for programming that connects directly to what they're learning and talking about. That does not include those weekend trips out with friends, but it really is an intentional program where we immerse the students in the Washington, D.C. area. Thanks, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Great, thank you. Mr. Carter, the Department Chair of the Arts.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Carter. I do a few things here. I live on one of the dorms. I'm the dorm head for Berkeley dorm with the guys who live here with me. And I'm also the faculty advisor to the discipline committee, but tonight I'm here to talk to you as the chair of the arts. And we are very excited about our arts program here. We have so many offerings, and it's kind of like what Nate was saying. We have a tremendous amount. It's sometimes hard to imagine all of the things that you could possibly do or get into while you're here. But we want students to try things. We want them to explore new options or follow a passion that they already have. And we offer many of the traditional things you would think of with visual arts, from ceramics, drawing and painting. From the performing arts, we have dance, instrumental music, choir, theater. And then in the digital arts area, we offer digital graphics, audio engineering, photography, and video production. And within all of those larger shell names of things that we offer, we get into many variances of those areas. So in ceramics, you might be doing ceramics on the wheel, or you may be doing sculpture. It just kind of depends on what the area is that you're interested in looking at. The other thing that I will say about what I love about Episcopal is the ability for folks to do many things here. So you may primarily think of yourself as an athlete, but we offer arts in a way that you can join in on the arts programs during the day as a class, and then be able to do athletics in the afternoon without interference. Or you can choose some of those afternoon options that Mr. Dixon was talking about, where we offer afternoon art and music and theater. And for theater and dance, let me not forget dance, but for theater and dance, that is where they do their major productions of the year. So we have a lot of things to offer, too many things for me to talk about in 1 minute, but I am happy to take questions at the end, and I hope you have a lot of things to ask.
Thanks, Mr. Carter. And finally, our athletic directors are here to talk about afternoon options.
Thank you, Lucy. Good evening to everybody. I got to tell you, I've sat through a lot of these programs, and sitting here tonight, hopefully all the prospective families are as excited as I am. The McCain-Ravenel program that we had a week ago was amazing, and it was transformative for me, so I can't imagine what it was for the kids. And then to hear Mr. Carter talk about the arts, Mr. Evil talk about academics, gets me pretty excited, pretty fired up. But then again, I'm a coach, so I get fired up pretty easily. We're only supposed to talk for a minute. That's not going to happen with me. I'm probably going to go over, but I think everybody else has as well. So I think that's okay. My name is Jim Fitzpatrick. I'm in my 16th year here at Episcopal. I'm very fortunate to work with my lovely bride, Mrs. Fitzpatrick, who's also the director of girls athletics. We have 4 children, 2 dogs. We live on campus, and it is a wild existence, but we wouldn't have it any other way. So it's the true boarding school experience. As you see your screen right now, take a look at the afternoon option program, the offerings across seasons, and there are some obviously non-athletic offerings. I think what Mr. Carter just said is so very important. You heard Lawson Laverty talk during the student presentation about how he is a football player, about to be a college lacrosse player, and he's also really an important cog in the choir system here at Episcopal and took trips there. This is not an either-or school. We want everyone to be involved in every aspect of this place, and I think that's wonderful. Now, in terms of the athletics, students are required to participate in 6 seasons of athletics, and usually we have about 70% or so of our student body that are playing sports each season. We have 50 different teams in 20 different sports, and that's changing. That's a changing number because we try and add some different options, every year or every couple of years. Our facilities, we're blessed with amazing facilities, 140 acres that are well maintained and well taken care of, so the students get everything they need. Coaches at Episcopal, 3 out of every 4 of our coaches are faculty. So our students are interacting with our coaches through everyday life and on the fields. And then certainly our athletic philosophy, we are promoting sportsmanship, competition. We want them to learn from their peers, learn from their coaches. And again, I think you heard one of the students talk about it. We want kids trying new things. You may have a passion in one particular sport. That is wonderful, but we do want you to step outside of your comfort zone, try new sports, try new things, interact with different people and different coaches. Thank you. And I think hopefully that was close to a minute.
That was pretty good, Jim. Good job. All right, I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions. We have about 15 minutes, and there are a few getting going in the chat, but please feel free to put your questions for anyone on this panel into the chat. I'm going to ask Mr. Dixon to address meals at Episcopal. In a typical year, what do meals look like here? Seated meals and how that works.
Sure. We have breakfast, and breakfast is a cafeteria-style meal. You are required to be in breakfast for a period of time when you are a new student to come and sign into breakfast. The older students have a little more leeway in terms of that being a required situation. It's a wonderful breakfast with all kinds of different offerings, from eggs to waffles. And then on Sundays, we have a really beautiful brunch where you can actually order your own omelet or egg scramble. And that's something that many of us never miss. It's a wonderful meal. The lunch meal, we do have a couple of seated lunch meals every week, where you will eat either with your advisory, most times with your advisory and your advisor, and that is a communal sit-down meal where we all sit at tables and we have a very wonderful meal together, but there's also announcements and celebration of community within that. The evening meal is a cafeteria meal except for one evening a week, and that one evening a week we have a sit-down meal where we all, again, come together, usually in our advisories, and we sit and have a more slowed down, more communal meal together where we sit at tables and have conversation about how the day has gone. And then again, we follow that up with announcements about what's going on in the community. At all of these meals, there are bountiful choices, vegetarian, people with allergies. Our dining staff is incredibly attentive to those who have special dietary needs, and they really go out of their way to help kids who have special needs in the dining services to make sure that they eat well, even if they are not eating a traditional meal that's served. So it's a very wonderful dining service, and I think many kids here grow very close to the folks who work in the kitchen because they are kind, caring, and compassionate people who really are there to help us each and every day make good choices about food, but also to be there to be our friends as they come through the line, as we come through the line.
Great, thank you. Mr. Ebel, there's a question about AP courses. Are we an AP school or do we have some other system?
So good question. We do not have designated AP courses. We've actually been decoupled from the AP designation for 7 years. And so we actually have our advanced courses are labeled as advanced. And that doesn't mean that our students don't take APs. They take a lot of APs, and many of the advanced courses that we have prepare students for the different APs. But what decoupling from the AP designation has done and what it's allowed is for us to offer advanced courses that are a little bit unique and different. And so we have some amazing advanced electives throughout our different disciplines that aren't focused solely on preparing for an AP test. But we do still have many of the advanced classes that will prepare students for those tests.
Great, thank you. I see that there are some questions about some specific sports and athletics requirement questions, and I think Mr. Fitzpatrick is answering those in the chat. Encourage all of you to jump in with any questions you have about residential life or Washington, arts, other athletics questions, anything academic. And at this point, I will ask the question about foreign languages. Mr. Ebel.
Sure. Is the question how many do we have?
Which ones?
Which ones? Yeah. So we have 7 or 8, and Basically, we've got French, we've got Spanish, we have Chinese, we have Latin, we have Greek, and we are a member school with Global Online Academy. And what that allows us is to access a wonderful Arabic program as well. And so we have students also taking Arabic. And so really some great classical languages and modern foreign languages. And our language department is one of our strongest here.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Dixon here. One, what is the dress code? And two, how about overnights? What are the weekends like in terms of flexibility? Can students leave for the weekend, or are they here all the time?
Those are great questions, and I would answer them in different ways depending on when we are in school. This fall presents a number of challenges, so that makes that question more interesting. But generally, we have a in-school, in-class dress code for students, and for the gentlemen, that means a collared shirt and a tie and khaki kind of pants. And for the ladies, that means nice slacks or a skirt or a dress, and a neat and clean attire. We do feel that going to class, students should dress in a more formal way and present themselves in a way that they are attending to something fairly important and serious. After class is done, students can be much more casual in their dress. They can wear t-shirts and jeans and all the things that you would generally wear when you are relaxing at home. And we do think that this is a home away from home, and that living in the dorm, you are actually in a home away from home where you can relax and be yourselves and be comfortable. So that is generally the dress code. We do have occasions when we dress up a little bit more formally. For gentlemen, sport coat and tie, and for ladies, dresses, and that would be for special Vesper services or special meals that we have occasionally, but those do not happen very often. As far as being able to leave campus, students are allowed to leave campus to go on day leaves, both across the street to a little shopping center that we have on particular times and days, and into Washington, D.C. with a series of permissions and in consultation with your parents. Students are also able to leave to go overnight, either to home or to other designated places their parents approve of on a limited amount of basis. We don't allow unlimited overnight leaves because we do think that students being on campus in our community is part of the experience here. And generally, on the weekend, we have 90% of the students who are in attendance and here on campus, attending community building events and being a part of the community.
Thank you. And one quick follow-up. Is there or how does the dress code apply for non-binary students?
Yeah, so we have created some expectations around that, but we are also very open to working with each individual student to make sure that our dress code is appropriate to serve their needs. And we are constantly looking at making our dress code appropriate for all our students. And we continue to revise it and be sure that we're relevant with current social issues and all the things that are going on in our society.
Great, thank you. Mr. Goldstein and Mr. Carter, I think one of the really cool things about the McCain Ravenel Center and the various programs we have around campus is that it really offers the faculty a chance to really collaborate. So can you all describe, I'm just putting you on the spot here, can you describe some of the awesome programs that I know the two of you have worked on to offer together using the resources of Washington, but for the arts?
I mean, Jeremy and I both, well, we both love music, first of all. And so we've had some really interesting opportunities to, I would say, veer out into some areas that students may not always choose to go to, but I think they enjoy once they're there. Jeremy has worked very hard to find actually an alum who we work with who is able to find some varying international acts, musicians, and recording artists who we've brought here to campus. And we do that a lot through our Jay Walker Symposium, which is a symposium that we have every year that is dedicated to bringing music and the arts to the campus. Go ahead, Jeremy, if you want to jump in as well.
No, I think you covered it. We at the McCain Ravenel Center collaborates with every department. I will say that the arts for me, because of my passion for music as well, is it's a great place to collaborate because DC and the greater Washington area have great resources, and it also attracts people from all around the globe. So you're not just looking at one style of performer. In addition to that, Mr. Carter and I go out of our way to use the network that Episcopal has of not only performers, but creative people. One of our favorite things to do is we are connected to a DJ school, and we actually have a world champion DJ who comes and teaches how to run a DJ turntable. I thought that's the most fun. I don't think I could ever do it, but it was really a lot of fun. In addition to the Jay Walker Symposium, which is really an outdoor, it's an outdoor concert on campus. There isn't a better way to describe it. We bring in multiple acts that that you don't normally run into.
Thank you. And Mrs. Williams, can I ask you a question about supervision on dorms? That's come up in a private chat. How does that work, and who are the faculty members who live and work with the children in the dorms?
Oh, that's a great question. So the supervision works that there are, in any residence hall, there are 3 to 4 families who live on dorm. So they're there, that's where they sleep, where they live, that's where they are. And then every night there are dorm parents who are on duty from 7 till about midnight, and then it's a little later on the weekends, and it also starts earlier on the weekend.
Great. And finally, last question here. I'll throw it to Mr. Goldstein, and others can jump in. As we all know, there's been a real uptick in sort of interest in the political process, in social issues around the country. And with our position so close to Washington, a question has come in about marches and protests. Are students allowed to participate in those? And if so, what's the process for that?
Thank you for that question. We have a front row seat to everything that's going on. There isn't a better place to be to really observe the democratic process, and the right to protest is part of that process. We have had students participate in the various marches that come through DC. Our primary concern is student safety. There's no question about it. We want to make sure that our students aren't put at risk. And we definitely want to make sure that we take all the precautions and do all the risk mitigation for students participating in that. We generally do not allow students to go without adult supervision. And then depending on the event, we vary the degree of sort of connection to the school versus connection to parents giving permission and taking their own students, or giving another adult permission to take them there as well. So number one is student safety. The second one is being accompanied by an adult as part of that risk mitigation. In addition, we don't really pick and choose, but we want to make sure that we have all of our bases covered in terms of students feeling safe and being able to connect with the process as well. So, the right to participate in free speech is a big thing here, and we really we want to support it. So many of our students propose those things early on when they get the sort of schedule for those protests. Does anyone else have and demonstrations and protests, all sorts of things, concerts on the mall, big events in DC require a lot of planning.
Great, thank you. And I think, okay, there is one last question. What is the culture of leaving on the weekends? Mr. Dixon spoke to that a little bit, but a lot of schools tend to have a big exodus of kids on the weekend. Is that something, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Carter, Mr. Dixon, that you feel happens here, or is there more of a culture where kids are going to stay here on campus because there's something really great going on?
I would say that there's definitely more of a culture of staying on campus. There are, one of my hats is also in the dean's office. I would say that there are probably 3 specific weekends that people tend to leave campus. That would be when Lawson was talking about Woodbury weekend earlier. That's a big family weekend. So a lot of times older brothers and sisters and families make just a big weekend of it. And a lot of people will hang out then. There tends to be a weekend close to usually actually family weekend when even if your own parents or your own family doesn't participate, then you might go hang out with your roommate's family or someone else who you're a close friend with. And then there tends to be another weekend that I can't think of right now, but there tend to be 3 weekends where a lot of people leave campus, and then the majority of the time people are here because there's so many activities and athletics and performances and studying and hanging out to do here.
Yeah, I would just add to that, while students are here on campus, students do take advantage of going into Washington, D.C., even on the weekends, and there are trips sponsored by the school. So even though people are here on the weekend, sometimes they will go into DC for a couple hours and catch up with something that's going on here. And there's a question in there about how many students are from the DC area. And I think we've got about 100 or so students who live within driving distance of the school, like a half-hour driving distance of the school. So there are some kids from the DC area, but certainly the vast majority of students are from all over the country and all over the world. And that also makes this place a wonderful, exciting place to live.
All right, great. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight, panelists. And I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Conklin to talk about the admissions process.
Thanks, Lucy, and thanks to our faculty. Such an amazing group, and I feel fortunate having 2 children who are at Episcopal, that they're surrounded every day by this amazing group of faculty members. So thank you for your time tonight. I wanted to briefly, I know we're approaching 9 o'clock and you may have homework and family things to get to tonight, but I did want to touch on some of the admissions process this year and what we know is a unique year. So I just wanted to touch on a couple things about the application requirements. We do have 2 common applications, the Gateway to Prep School application and the standard application online through SSAT. We don't have a preference, so you can do either one. I know a lot of schools accept the SAO, so if you're planning on doing that one, that is totally fine. Recommendations, we require 3. So from the principal or counselor at your school and your current math and English teachers. We understand that this year is a little bit different for those students that may be virtual for the first semester or an extended period of time, and that you may not get to know those teachers as well in a virtual format, and they may not get to know you quite as well as they would if you were in the classroom. So we are still requiring those 3. However, we are open and encourage you to submit a recommendation from one of your teachers last year that know you well. So if you would like to submit a recommendation from one of last year's teachers, you are welcome to do that. We do require your transcript from the last 2 years. International students, we require language, TOEFL, Duolingo, or the IELTS. We are requiring the SSAT this year. So there is an at-home version that you can take on your computer at home. And we know that some places are administering the in-person SSAT as well. So either one of those is acceptable. We also accept the PSAT and SAT as well as the IC. So there are some other options. If you're taking the IC for an independent day school application, we'll accept that as well. And then the interview. So we're doing everything, unfortunately, virtually for now, including the tours. So we don't have the ability to welcome families and prospective students to campus quite yet. We'll continue to evaluate that over the course of the fall. And we certainly hope by the spring, if we can't get students on campus for the fall, that in the spring for our Revisit Day program, that students who are accepted would have the opportunity to visit campus and experience classes and chapel and lunch and extracurricular activities and all those things that our students and faculty just talked about. And lastly, there are deadlines. So January 15th is our application deadline. The end of January is our financial aid application for families that are applying for financial aid. March 10 is our notification date. So that's when we let families and students who have applied what our decision is. And then accepted students have until April 10th to make your decision. And hopefully in that time frame, you'll be able to come back to visit campus. We really encourage you to check out our website. Our Visit Us page has a lot of good content in it, virtual programming, where you can learn more about Episcopal. We're going to continue to do events like this over the course of the fall. There were so many good questions tonight that we didn't get to all of them, but we really encourage you to take that next step, to reach out to our office and to set up an interview. We're very excited to meet all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. We're not going to take any last questions here for tonight, but you can certainly reach out to us and we will gladly answer those questions. So we hope you have a wonderful evening, a great start to your school year, and we look forward to meeting you soon. Have a good night, everybody.